Now let us move on to the next topic, which is what is the role of optimization in product development? This is a conventional, traditional simulation and its role in the product design. So you come up with a product concept, you do the simulation, and then you go for a design review. And then within the design review, they say, okay, the design is good enough and it is meeting all the requirements. So you freeze the design. In optimization simulations, what we do is, again, the process is more or less similar, but when you come up with a product concept, you do a lot of optimization simulations, you make a recommendation, and then on the recommended product, you do the traditional simulation and then go to the design review, and then you freeze the design. What's the difference between the two? The difference between the two is that the traditional simulation is likely to result in a lot of loops between the design review and the actual product concept itself before it is frozen. Whereas in case of an optimization approach, it is likely that there are kind of a very less number of loops, or in fact no loops, if your optimization study has been carried out correctly, because you have recommended a concept which is considering all the variables and constraints. There are no loops here, and it can go to the design review and you can freeze the design straight away. Continuing on the same topic of kind of the role of optimization. So this is one of my favorite kind of graphs here, which represent the importance of design activity in the overall product development. This is a traditional cost accounting where about 5% of the product cost is actually spent in design, whereas the remaining cost of product actually is in material, labor, and actually the overheads and whatever product development later on. But that design 5% can actually have a bigger influence on the overall cost. So 70% of the actual total cost or the influence cost is actually coming from design. What it means is that if there is a problem but done by labor, or if you have chosen a wrong material, for example, then the implications of correcting that are about 20 to 25% cost. Whereas if you do something wrong in the design and then you realize it later on, then the cost of that is actually can be as high as 70%, which means your design is wrong, and hence you might have chosen the wrong material, you might have chosen the wrong process, as well as there could be a lot of problems once the product is released. So if the product is optimized correctly, considering all the variables and constraints, then you could have huge savings by doing an optimized design. That is where the optimization can play a very crucial role in the product development. Now move on to the types of optimizations. So what are the different types of optimizations that we use for structural optimization? So there are typically there are three types of optimization in the gross level and the very top level. We can say them as sizing optimization, shape optimization, and topological optimization. So sizing means you play with the dimensions. Shape means kind of you play with the shape of it, obviously. So the another technical term that we can use it is morphing. And topology is nothing but where you distribute the material depending upon its load path. So let's look at three examples, a few examples for each of the cases. So the first one is the size optimization. Size optimization is the most fundamental method of optimization. It determines the dimensions of the structure. And in this case, obviously the design variables are thickness, width, and length. And design constraints can be conventional design constraints like the deflection, stress, or other criteria. So let's take a simple example. So this is what I was mentioning earlier, where I said that the solution itself will result in an optimized solution and there is not much of options available for you. So if I were to take a rod subjected to load like this, for example, on the left one, and I know that the loads are applied in these three positions, and because it is a simple case of axial loading, I know that the cross section has to be directly proportional to the loading. So as the loading increased, I can keep increasing the area. And in this case, there is only one constraint and the solution is pretty simple, and you come up with three cross sections for the three loadings, and you have optimized the product. Let's take a slightly complicated example. Here, I'm applying a load to this 2-bar truss problem. And here in this case, they're all subjected to buckling. So now if I were to say that design an optimum height, given the horizontal distance between fixing the horizontal distance between these 2 points, then there are 2 constraints here, in the sense that if I increase the length of it, then the load will be axial load in both of them, and hence it would be buckling will be driving parameter rather than the normal failure mode, compressive mode. So that is where the number of variables is getting increased as we go into these type of problems. And if you were to take a conventional problem where if I want to optimize cross section of the web or the flanges for an I-section beam subjected to, or a simply supported beam subjected to loading at the center, then here the number of variables is many, because you can change the cross section from one end to the other end continuously depending upon your shear force and especially the bending moment diagram in this case. So in this optimization, what we are doing is we are determining the sizes of the members. That is why it is called the size optimization. We're not changing the shape, we're not changing or distributing the material any differently. So this is a standard size optimization that we do even in conventional analysis approaches. The next one we talk about is the shape optimization. So in this optimization, what it does is it focuses on the shape of the structure. So the previous example of plate subjected to tensile loading, for example, what we were optimizing there was we were optimizing the shape of the hole. That was an example. So here you can say that a cantilever beam, an L-shaped beam subjected to tip load, for example, is optimized in this way. And you can optimize the shape of the beam so that the product weight can be minimized for a given deflection and stiffness constraints. Another example of shape optimization is where you have a need to reduce the stress concentration factor. So again, this is an example from Altair OPTISTRUCT, where you have a stress concentration at this curved radius here, as shown in the red high stresses here. And you can change the profile, or you can change the shape of this cutout so that you can reduce the stresses here. Another example can be aircraft fuselage floor beam, where you can introduce a lot of cutouts here to reduce the weight, because its purpose is to carry the floor loading as well as contribute to the overall integrity of the fuselage structure, especially crashworthiness and other constraints. So there may be a scope to reduce the weight of it by introducing these holes. And this is an example of shape optimization. Another extreme example of shape optimization is the shape of the wing itself. So this is again futuristic design. It's not the example that is out there available, but by defining the wing profile like that and fixing the winglets to kind of making a new wing design, it is possible to achieve a very aerodynamically efficient wing for the aircraft. So this is an example of another shape optimization. The third one, optimization, is a topological optimization, which is you can say that it's the most popular among the FE community. Any optimization, if you do a simple Google search, you will find that there are a lot of examples demonstrating topological optimization. So what it does is it distributes the material. This optimization focuses on distributing the material where is required based on the load path. And generally, when we are doing a design, this is the first type of optimization we do. And it is generally followed by other optimization. We'll look at an example later on as to what I mean by preliminary and final topological overall optimizations. So here is an example of topology optimization for linkage, where you have kind of the load transfer from one place to another place. So as you can see, depending upon whether you are applying axial load, vertical load, and all the torsional loads, the shape can be optimized by distributing the material along the load path. Another example is this C-clip, where the load is applied in the at the clip here, both upwards and downwards. So the aim of this member is to transfer the load from here to here. And there is a constraint of having an open space here. So the load has to transfer there, and topological optimization will give you this optimized shape. That's another example of topological optimization where material distribution is done so that you get the optimized shape. So just to summarize the three optimizations there, the sizing, shaping, and topological optimization. So if I were to present all the three on the same example, how do they look like? So this is how it looks like. So if I were to do an optimization on a bridge design, for example, so I could optimize just the sizes without changing the shapes of it, and without arranging the members in any different way. That would be sizing optimization. I could change the shape of the members. That will become a shape optimization. Or I could distribute the members in such a way that the load carried is efficient. That would become a topological optimization. In various commercial finite element analysis, generally there is another optimization approach that is mentioned, which is called a topography optimization. What it does is it searches for an optimum distribution of beats. That means kind of you can say the stiffnesses or swages in shell structures. So this is called a topography optimization. So here is a case study that I was talking about earlier, where a rib approach is explained here. So initially we have a model, we define the design space as to this is a space where I want to have the structure, define the loading and boundary conditions. So if you run a topological study initially, then you come up with the shape. So that's the first step in the design process. You do a topological optimization. Then after that, then you extract the based on the topological result, you arrange the members in such a way, and you get various other inputs, and you carry out size and shape optimization. That is generally the kind of the process that is followed. So once you do the topological optimization, then you do the detailed size and shape optimization, then you arrive at the final shape, and then you can freeze the design as shown in this figure here. And what is the potential that is available for the optimization? Because of the availability of the advanced manufacturing techniques, which is additive manufacturing, that is becoming very popular nowadays. This offers a lot of potential. As you can see, these three examples here, where the first example is the kind of the linkage bar. So it is very difficult to manufacture these type of them using the conventional approaches. But if it were to be an aircraft bracket and where the savings of weight can be highly desired, then you can spend more money on manufacturing the component, and hence you can arrive at a efficient product. And the other example is the seat belt. And the bottom example here is shown is a kind of a 3D printed lightweight titanium limb. So the kind of a frame for the leg. So these are the type of products that can be achieved by doing an optimization approaches and using the proper approaches of optimization. We come to the last topic of today's webinar here, which is the optimization in OPTISTRUCT. So OPTISTRUCT, what does it do? So OPTISTRUCT is the solver in the Altair suite of programs. So as I said earlier, again, there is concept level design or initial design, which is what mainly a topological design. So within OPTISTRUCT, they also have this free size and topography optimization. Free size is nothing but it's a size optimization, but at a very gross level. And this is what you carry out using a concept level design. Then once an outline of the shape is generated, then you go to the fine tuning of the design, and you carry out the free shape and size optimizations to arrive at the final design. In OPTISTRUCT, what it is called a DRCO approach. So what does it mean is you have to focus on these four words here. So design variables, the responses, the constraints, and the objective. So let us take an example here where, for example, if I want to optimize the cantilever beam here subjected to a tip load. So the first question is, what are the design variables? The design variables in this case are the width and the height of the cross section, because the length is more or less fixed in this case. What is the response? The response is, what are the stresses and what is the mass of the this particular design? What are the constraints? Obviously, the stresses are constraints. And in addition to that, you could introduce certain constraints for various reasons, that I want my height to be less than 2 times the width, and the objective. So in this case, you could say that the objective is I want to minimize the weight of this bracket. So given these 4 approach or the options or variables, these are what you will be defining in Altair OPTISTRUCT to solve the problem. So here I show an extract of kind of the menu of the OPTISTRUCT here. So when you go to an optimization, this is how it look like. So here we have, these are the 4 options or the variables that you need to define. So again, going to the DRCO approach here. So here you define the design variables, whether you are doing topology optimization or topography optimization, or whether you are doing composite layer optimization, for example. So you define your variables, then you go to and define all your responses, constraints, and objective. And the way OPTISTRUCT works is that first you have to define your responses, and those responses will be defined as constraints or objectives. So as we shown earlier, so the responses in this case in our beam example are kind of the stresses and the deflections and the height and the width, which themselves are called or need to be defined as constraints and objective. So that kind of is an introduction to the structural optimization. So to conclude my talk today, so here is the important takeaway. So optimization is a design concept, and it is a very systematic and very goal-oriented process. And it can be used to replace the conventional trial and error approaches, because when we are doing a design or an analysis, especially a design, so our intuition is to go with a trial and error approach. So you try this, if it doesn't work, you try something else. Whereas optimization approach, if you take, then it is a very systematic process, and it has a very important role in research and education and engineering, because it can be kind of used as a kind of an yardstick of perfection. So you are arriving at a perfect solution when you do an optimized optimization problem. And it is a very kind of it is a conceptual framework, because you are identifying the problem, you are modeling the problem, and you are evaluating it. And it is a, you can term it as an automatic, and it's a very interactive process as well, because you can change variables as you are defining the problem, depending upon your experience and feedback. And finally, it is a very useful decision making tool, because if you have defined all your inputs correctly, then your output is going to be driving your decision in terms of the design. One last message is that optimization approaches, however good they are not substitute for good engineering intuition, and that is very much key in the optimization process. And obviously, my suggestion is that the best strategy is one that emphasizes both the complements of each other. So you have the tool, as well as you also have the good engineering intuition in making the product design.